Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Ron Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3%. Welcome back, Construction Champions, to another episode. I'm your facilitator, Ron Nussbaum. I am the founder and CEO of BuilderComms, and I am the one that gets to have these amazing conversations with leaders, disruptors, trendsetters in the construction industry, and put you down the road of becoming the champion that we know you're meant to be. So today is no different. We have an amazing guest with us. I am super excited for our conversation. Trey, it is fantastic to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Ron, for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, before we dive into it, why don't you introduce yourself to all the champions listening out there?
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm a third generation HVAC operator. So grew up in the family business. Had the privilege of working with a grandfather from junior high to high school. Joined the family business with my dad, and then ultimately, you know, taking ownership of that business, growing that business, multiple locations in the HVAC and plumbing trade, and eventually building what we know today as the Blue Cardinal Home Services platform that has created a place for like-minded operators to join and really take their businesses to the next level.
Awesome, man. I always love it when we get on a seasoned operator that is also helping other people as well down that journey. So this is going to be an amazing conversation. I'm going to dive right in there. I'm going to ask the $1 million question, and that is, what makes a construction champion?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of ways to think about that. But for me, it's a craft of a gentleman that creates permanent solutions, and I think that can be taken a lot of different ways. But I believe when you provide a service to someone, you need to be able to put your stamp on it and have confidence that that product or that solution is going to last for a long time.
I love it. That is a different perspective than what we get on here a lot of times. And permanent solutions, that can be hard, especially in HVAC. I live over on the coast in North Carolina, so a permanent HVAC solution is a few years, unfortunately, with the salt air. But when you start to look at that and say you're having a conversation with somebody that's going to challenge that, like what we do can be permanent, what would you say to them?
Yeah, and I think when we think about permanent solutions, we're really talking about the true lifespan of whatever that product is. But for me, I'm a tradesman first, and I believe a lot of these businesses have been monetized from a sales-minded organization, which I think is important. But I believe, though, as a craftsman, like if you can always ask yourself, anything that you run across, is that a 10-year permanent solution? And if you can answer yes, then you probably gave the right offerings to that customer to make the best decision they possibly could.
I love it because you're speaking to my heart here, because I like, we have to have a business. There has to be a business foundation. But here in the last 10, 15 years in the construction world, that has been lost. Like when you talk about I'm a tradesman first, we have lost that, and we have become so lopsided in the, like you said, the sales, in the financial aspect, that we've actually lost sight of like the core business that we actually are and what we do.
No, I agree. I mean, I think when you look at a lot of these trades, it's their products are coming throwaway products, and the art of being able to fix something, diagnose something is definitely fading. And I think it's balancing that a lot of these tradesmen that we're bringing in the trades, like is a lot of those their desires really to fix something with their hands. And uh, if all we're talking about is, what's your flip rate and what's your average ticket, sometimes that can get lost in like what the real purpose is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know you're speaking directly to a lot of our listeners because what we hear a lot, like people don't want to lose that, like that I'm a tradesman first mentality, but they feel like in order to grow their business, that has to go away. They have to become this business operator and they can't have that same mentality that they used to have. How have you been able to bridge the gap and create that success there and still stay true to who you are?
Well, I think a lot of times, when we think about sales, I do believe a lot of times sales is solving the major question is what's the permanent solution. I think it's how you go about it, when you go about it. But if I go into your home and you got a 11-year-old system, like to me, my job is to make sure I give you all the solutions and all the repairs that would be needed to that system that for 5 years you don't need to call me back. And what does that look like? And I think a lot of times that is labeled sales. And I think it's first off is level setting on what is our job as a craftsman and as a tradesman. And I think our job, number one, is not to make a decision for the customer, but to give them everything that you've identified as a potential problem, a solution to it, and a price to do that. And then from there, allow them to make a decision.
I love it. And that's what we love about our HVAC company that we use here locally. And what my wife really loves is every time they come out here and they replaced our AC unit a year ago, but every time they come out, they don't just say this is what should be done. They're like, here's where we're at, here's what you can do, here's what you should do, and here's what must happen. Like it's it's not salesy at all. All they are is here. I love educational sales processes, and that's all they do is they come out and they educate us on everything that's happening, what could be an issue, what to keep an eye on, and then let us make a decision. But they've covered all their bases, so I can
Yeah.
never call them up and be like, "Why didn't you tell me this?"
And I think so it's like both ends of the spectrum there. I think sometimes you got this sales guy that's just, maybe he's lazy, he don't want to fix nothing, so he sells it, or he doesn't know how to fix it. And then you got this other guy that knows that that part only costs $15. And if it was his house, this is what he would do. And it's like, how do you get the middle to say at the end of the day, this is a customer that does not know how to fix their old unit. So if it breaks July 4th weekend, they don't have a capacitor in their truck. They don't have the ability to wire around a board. They are literally at the mercy of someone coming out. That is a different, request and mindset that a technician, I think, has to has to figure out how to relate with and give solutions for that customer.
Yeah, because it's one thing I know of being around this industry long enough is if you don't do that and the incident happens on July 4th, it's not the customer's fault. It's your fault. It's your tech's fault. It's everybody besides the customer.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
So how this is fascinating me this conversation here because this is I think the kind of conversations that have to happen in the industry to help us move out of like this funk that we're in. So how have you been able to kind of craft because you get texts that are extremes on both sides most of the time, and sometimes you get one that's very well rounded, but how have you been able to bring that all together and bring the people that are the ones that might not want to do it in on exactly how you do it, and then also a lot of us don't want to sell stuff and help move them in that position where you're really not selling.
Yeah. So first off, I think like just the level set on things, like I think your moral compass has to be aligned with the people you bring on, right? So I think there is programs, pay, type of pay systems or type of, short-term initiatives that you're pushing on that could create a misalignment, like morally, right? So I think as a leader, you're constantly balancing that. But I think if you start with a great tech and a great moral compass, and you as well as a leader has that, then I think directionally you're going to stay within the lines, right? So then I zoom out. Once I check the box on that, really just realizing like I'm a guy that's going to build an organization, but I'm a structure guy. So I know I had to surround myself with people that honestly run a little faster than I want to run a little looser than I want to run. And like I'm better at pulling the reins back than I am like driving the business forward. So for me, it was about getting very sales minded people in my organization that was financially motivated. Like I am more motivated through like solving problems for people than I am sell a $30,000 change out, right? Doesn't mean one's bad or the other. It just means as a successful business, I think you got to have all those things. So recognizing who you are and then surrounding yourself with those type people. And then as you build an organization to recognize that, you know, I got a you may have a technician in your business that can fix anything and he wakes up every day to go find that challenge. Then how do you dispatch that guy to those type of calls where he lives, you know, he lives in the zone that he's the most effective. And then you got the other guy that, he loves to uh, talk about new systems and he's great at having those transitional conversations. Then those of age opportunities, that's the wheelhouse that guy should live in. And I think that's really his success is there is no one size fits all of a personality you need in those departments. It's making sure right tech, right call at the right time, and everybody's happy at that point.
So it really comes down to having a dispatch center that understands who the right people are for the right cars that come in.
Yeah, so I mean, I know in our department, 30% of our calls are going to be in the HVAC world are going to be opportunity calls, and that means the system's older than 10 years old. So just quick math on that is 30% of my technicians in the field need to be really good at flipping leads, right? They need to not shy away from having a conversation about a customer about financing or about that new system. I know that if I'm going to be successful in our organization, a minimum of 30% of those. But then we have another 25% of our calls that are truly high level technical calls. Well, that tells me 25% of my technicians in my organization have to be very technically sound, or we're going to have a callback problem and a unhappy customer.
Yeah, which is definitely something you do not want to have. What do you think you grew up around this. What do you think the benefits of growing up around this has been for you and how you function in the business and do what you do now?
Well, I think a little bit of straight credit, right? Like we bring on someone new, and so, when we talk about expanding, operation hours, like I don't look at that from, oh, well, this would be great for the customer because we all could agree on that. And this would be great for revenue. But I truly can relate. I know what it's like to be in a uniform for every child's birthday party. I know what it's like to be on call. So I think having that, uh, just understanding the challenges of a technician and I think it allows me to balance growing a business a little differently because we can't grow a business without customers, but also the the framework and the disciplines that we share with those customers set the expectations for them, and we got to balance that between great tech. So I know for a fact that if we run a call after 11 o'clock at night, the efficiency of our technicians the next 2 days is 50% of what it would be. And so the question I have to ask myself is solving one customer's problem at 1 o'clock in the morning worth giving 8 customers, a mediocre job the next 2 days? And the answer is probably no. And same thing with a technician. So I think for me growing up in that, it's just, I live what I preached and I've been there and I may not be good at all the positions in the business, but I know them all. And so when you build a cohesive like sales process and customer, process, like you understand from marketing to answering the phones to dispatching to a tech going out, flipping the lead, installers coming out, what the quality, you know, control should look like and what the follow-up process should look like. And I think when you understand the full ecosystem of that business, it can make you a better leader. But I believe too, at the same time, Ron, like I've seen that create, you know, limited beliefs in a lot of people too,
Mhm.
because they've never seen, massive growth. Because I worked with my dad and my grandpa, and we know we grew at you know, at this mediocre rate, and it was always hard for us to find employees. So that's like the mindset we have. So I think you also got to, I think exposure's king. And what I love about the trades, whether that's construction or HVAC, plumbing, whatever that is, they're probably the most giving, most open, helpful people in the world. So um, go get exposure, and that I think opens your eyes to ways that things can be done, and gives you motivation to like take the leap of faith it sometimes takes to grow these businesses.
Yeah, I mean it's the pros and cons have to be waved in there or weighed in there. Uh I have to ask, you've been around this your entire was there ever a moment or did you ever think you wasn't going to do this or was this always the trajectory for Trey?
No, I will. So I think a lot of family businesses, you just wake up one day and you're in the middle of the business, right? So you grow up in it. So there was never a point in my life where I said, work in a family business or take job X. It was always work in a family business. It was for a lot of different reasons. You know, watching your dad struggle, your grandpa struggle hiring talent. Well, the last thing you want to do is be part of that problem, right? So I think for me, it was like this obligation, and I don't. It sounds bad saying towards my dad, but it wasn't something he actually created. It's just the nature of the beast. But I'll say, Ron, like for me, I joined the family business out of high school, and married my high school sweetheart, and started raising a family. And about 3 years into the business out of high school, you know, the culture of the business wasn't what I wanted it to be. It was a job, it wasn't a career. And obviously, just like any family business, you talk about that, and it kind of falls on deaf ears. And then finally, man, I just woke up one day and said, if not me, then who? And who's going to change the way we're doing things? And went to my dad and said, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And I was very fortunate to have a dad that said, Trey, like if you're willing to pay the price and put in the energy, I'll get behind you. And I think much like a lot of these contractors, I think you want to pay it forwards, and you want to really help the people that's helped you, start your career. And for me, it's like, how do I build something to retire my dad? Right. And within 3 years, he became a absentee owner. Within the next two, I had bought him out completely, and he rode off in the sunset. And so I think, uh, to answer your question, I didn't know there was any other way, but to be in the business, but I knew there was a better way of doing the business.
I love that. And it's not the when you're telling that story it's just the American dream here. And you have I've had a lot of guests on here. I've had a lot of conversations, and the family business dynamic, it breaks up a lot of families. And to be able to step in there and then, decide that if not me, who then? And then your dad being receptive to that is an amazing story.
Yeah, no, I think our family dynamic was one that I'm very grateful for, because being in a platform business where you're partnering with a lot of different people, like you see the good and the bad and the ugly, and you see a lot more of the bad in these family dynamics. And it always goes down to, though, is someone don't feel like someone else is carrying their weight, right? And for me, I grew up in a family that I still tell everybody, like, I don't know too many people that can outwork my mom. So I grew up in a servanthood mentality that really worked well in our family dynamic.
I love that. So what you've referenced it a couple of times, giving back, continuing to help people grow. What does that look like for you nowadays? As you built this up, you're continuing to grow it, and sounds like you're reaching out a little bit farther and actually helping other people do this.
Yeah. So I mean, this may not go quite the direction that you asked there, but I'll try to get there. You
However,
know,
wherever you want to go,
yeah.
your show
Well,
today.
well, I grew a family business, like I said, and you know had a father exit the business, so all the financial burden, all the responsibility, you know, fell on my shoulders, and it was something I signed up for, but probably something I underestimated, just the sheer responsibility of, you know, of the livelihoods that were betting on me every day, and started growing a business. You know, we got up to 5 locations, and then we added a trade and loving life. But I think at some point when you're growing these businesses, like you come to realize, like, first off, my wife and kids didn't sign up for the risk I was taking every day. And the second piece is my wife had a lot to unwind if something happened to me. And, you know, it goes back to it's easy to lose sight, I think, as you're growing these businesses or when you're wanting to grow a business, is what are you growing it for? And, you know, are you growing it for, you know, to create financial security for your family? You know, and honestly, that was probably something I put a lot of weight on. Second, you know, are you growing it for your own ego because you just love the game and you love the control and you love the hustle and the bustle, which is probably something that, if I'm honest with you, I probably undervalued, but reality was that was probably more my ego driving this thing forwards. And then the other side of that is balancing performance of an organization, um, with opportunity for people. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, as corny as this sounds, like, this is what I truly believe. Like, we're in the people building business, and we happen to do HVAC and plumbing. And I love my people. I want to do life with my people, and you know, first time homeowners are like very important to me in my business because I know that's the first step to a lot of financial stability and all these things like that. That you start the reason you start building a business, but it's easy to start losing sight of, like, what did you build it for, and making sure you just have crystal clear goals there. And for me, you know, it was all of them. It was like I was fairly young, had a lot of runway left, and I wanted to keep the gas on the floor. Um, there's a lot of great people that brought me to the dance that I love, and, like, I tell everybody, like, my job is to create opportunity. If you leave me for more opportunity, like, shame on me. So my job, and when you create a culture of that, it's it's a machine that takes a lot to keep it going. And because, you know, you're recruiting and you're hiring people that aren't satisfied with status quo, and like, so you got to keep the machine running. And but then the third one was, you know, I wanted financial stability for my family. I wanted something, if something happened to me tomorrow, like, my wife and kids were okay. And with that, you know, there's a lot of different things taking place in our industry, and, you know, whether that's these buyouts, private equity, you know, which gets a bad rap, to to selling to kids, and I think there's a lot of exit strategies you can take to take capital off the table. And but for me, I went down that path, and I just could not get comfortable with a group that really understood the human capital side and what's going to happen to my company, what's going to happen to the people, and I still wanted to be a part of it. So obviously, it wasn't just like, give me a check and what happens to my people happens. And honestly, as many conversations I have every day, that's never the case. The contractors always care about what happens to their people, and I just couldn't find a group that checked all those boxes. And ultimately, I needed, you know, I made a commitment. I was going to take some chips off the table to secure my family's future. I made a commitment. I was going to create an organization that created opportunity, stability, and maintain my culture for my people. And then third, I wanted somewhere to call home that I could keep running. And so we created the Blue Cardinal Home Services, and it's a platform that finds like-minded operators that I just spoke about, that wants to take some chips off the table. Some of them want to sunset, and some of them want to join a bigger group that can go the next level, or just help them whatever their weaknesses are. And so I told you it'd be a long ways of getting there, but I think it was important for me to say, like, there's a lot higher there's a higher purpose of why I built Blue Cardinal than for the sake of, you know, creating more money. So
I know I love that. And that it is important because I think a lot of times when we start talking about the exit strategies and what does that look like to take chips off the table is we only the conversation only evolves around money. And it sounds like you were dissatisfied with that and you wanted to have a more holistic what's actually going to happen with this business and my people conversation and couldn't really find that. So you went out and created it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like going through that process, not having partners in the business, and then you bring on partners is the only way you can take chips off the table, right? There's got to be a payee. Um, I think that gave me a lot, a deeper understanding of why I do what I do and why I'm building what I'm building, and because I know for a fact it was the most emotional journey I've ever been on my whole entire life, and it had nothing to do with the money. It had to do with just my people and that I don't know that sanctity of like just uh that core group that five of us get around the table and we could create anything, right? And I think that is what's fun about these businesses, and I think it's just about, but when it really comes down to like building, the thing I learned was, you know, where success is going to come from in the construction and in the construction business or any business that you're going to be part of is how well can you build a team? And I tell when I walk into a meeting with my team, I can assure you I'm the dumbest one in there. And uh that's by design because we were able to get some of the smartest, most talented, most genuine hearted people, to I convinced them to join in my team but that comes with a lot of responsibility, to drive those things forwards. But when we look at this industry, I just think there's so much opportunity and people are searching for a home to be part of something like that. And I think that the trades create, I think, I, you know, that underdog mentality lives in every tradesman. And if you can just give them something to go get after, I think you can create something special.
Yeah, no, I mean that's how I ended up in this world. It was when I got out of the Marine Corps and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I ended up on a job site. And a lot of times I say it probably saved my life because I found that camaraderie, that brotherhood, like a mission, what we were actually doing that I was missing once I got out. And I'll tell you, it's amazing in that, like you said, the underdog mentality. But I will say, there is no better feeling in the world than walking into a room and you're the dumbest one in it. Like people really underestimate that, especially when it's your team and
Yeah.
you walk in there and you're like, I'm really, really good at this, but like these people are a lot better than I am. And like they're on the mission here and they're the ones out leading it. Like people don't that feeling is unbelievable when you get to it. And I know for a lot of people it's really hard to go down that road because you got to give up the control and the everything. But when you pass that summit and you walk into that room, it's an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah. No, I mean, growing a business, in a very simple way of telling it is your job is to work yourself out of a job. And you do that through creating repeatable processes that you design because you're probably never going to hire someone that can go solve a problem for you. You got to go figure it out, solve it at least 90%. You can have someone take it the rest of the 10. But my job was really, whether that was in a call center as a technician, as an install coordinator, was to build a process I could work myself out of the job and then go hire unbelievable talent that was hungry and that could take it to the next level. And my job then was to support them in leadership and give them the tools they needed and remove the roadblocks.
Mhm.
And with that, it's been a fun business to be a part of.
Awesome. So, are you focused anywhere geographically or nationwide, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So our goal is the Sun Belt. Kind of Arizona East, but we currently have a couple locations in Arizona, quite a few in Texas, Alabama, and Kansas City. But we're looking for like-minded operators in those areas. And the biggest thing is our goal is to be a partner. And when we want to be a partner, we want to bring value. So we want to, if we don't understand the business because you're doing a bunch of industrial work or new construction or you're in a unique market, it's not that we wish we could be a part of your business. The reality is I want to bring value and we don't have those tools for those type of things. So very focused on HVAC, plumbing, electrical businesses, in the Sun Belt area.
So you know what you're really, really good at, and you want to be able to transition that into helping other people and not just get bogged down with the growth for growth.
Yeah, yeah. I think I tell everybody like we're not in the EBITDA collection business, right? Like we are truly in the operating business and operate what we know and bring value there. And if it's outside of that scope, like what value do we bring to you? We don't bring any.
That's a different business to be in these days when you're talking about what you're doing and putting together, because that's what a lot of people are out there doing is they're just collecting EBITDA.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, I've loved this. This has been a fantastic conversation today. For all the listeners, if they wanted to connect with you, learn more about everything you have going on, where's the best places for them to do that?
Yeah, so we do have a website and it's bluecardinalhomeservices.com, but the best way is to email me and I'll give you the shortest email I have because they got about 4 different emails, but it's Trey, and that's Trey at McWilliams and son.com. So Trey at McWilliams and son.com.
Awesome. We'll
But
make sure to get that in the show notes as well.
yeah, and if I can, like, again, I love the trades, and honestly, I've watched a lot of people bust their butt for a long time and not have a lot to show for it. Like, the trades is really my passion. So it's not, I'm gonna call Trey when I want to sell my business. Like, I want you to call Trey when you got a son in your business and you're thinking about transferring, responsibility to him. Like, if I can help, I love the game, so I'm happy to help where I can.
I love it. I love the servant heart, the servant leadership. It's absolutely amazing. Trey, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, Ron, no, I appreciate the opportunity here. So look forward to more conversations in the future.
Absolutely, man. Whenever you want to. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag. Well, man, we covered a lot today,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, one of the main things that stood out to me is because here on Construction Champions, we're all about challenging the status quo of why are we where we are is because we look at it and say, well, this is how we've always done it. And then listening to Trey's story there's many times along the road where he could have just said, this is how my granddad did it. This is how my dad did it. I'm not going to be happy, but I'm going to continue doing it this way because this is the family business. And instead, he decided to say no. Like, if not me, then who? He asked the hard questions and then had the conversations that had to go with them to lead him down the road. And then he went and found great people that could take it farther than he could, and he just supports them. That is what true leadership is. When you look at championship teams, it's about finding the right players and figuring out how you can remove the barriers so they can go be great. And that's what we have to do as business owners. And I think this is definitely worth a re-listen for anybody that is listening to it right now. Go back and start it over again because you probably missed something. So construction champions, until next time, go be the champion you were meant to be.